My true story. From Texas. I visited my millionaire daughter just to say hello. But when the door opened, I froze. She didn't expect me to see that. The apple pie was still cooling on my windowsill when I decided to surprise her. I had baked it just like when she was little, with extra cinnamon and a heart carved in the crust. Back then, she would sneak pieces before dinner, always leaving sticky fingerprints on the pan. I thought maybe, just maybe, she still remembered those Sunday mornings when we shared slices and talked about her dreams. Her mansion was enormous. $15 million of brick and iron gates that stretched toward the sky. I had to press a button and wait, clutching my pie tin, hoping the camera wouldn't buzz red and send me away. But it didn't. Not that morning. The gate opened slowly. I walked up the long path, my old shoes clicking on polished stone. When I reached the front door, I rang the bell. Waited. And when it opened, I froze. She looked like a stranger. Not my little girl. No, not the child I raised on mac and cheese and bedtime prayers, but someone cold and distant. She wore a black dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her hair was pulled back so tight it stretched her face. Her eyes, my eyes, looked at me with shock that quickly turned to anger. "What are you doing here?" She whispered, her voice sharp and panicked. "You can't just show up like this." I held up the pie, trying to smile. "I made your favorite," I said softly. But she didn't look at it. Instead, she glanced behind her, nervous. "Are you trying to ruin everything?" She hissed. "Do you know what's happening today? There are important people inside. Investors. People who think I'm someone I'm not. People who believe my mother was a saint who died saving children from a fire." I stared at her. "What?" She crossed her arms tight. "Don't act surprised. You know what this is about. You're not part of my success story. You're an embarrassment. A mistake I've moved past. An embarrassment." That word hit me like a slap. Not mother, not visitor, not even stranger. An embarrassment. Then she leaned closer, her voice shaking with rage, not sadness. "Don't you dare call me your daughter. I am self-made. A survivor of tragedy. You were just the woman who happened to give birth to me." I didn't drop the pie. Not yet. My hands stayed steady, worn from years of factory work and late-night sewing to pay her school fees. I stood there quietly, holding the only gift I could afford. That's when she grabbed my arm. I hadn't expected it. Not from her, not at her beautiful doorstep. But she gripped me hard, her manicured nails digging into my skin like claws trying to erase me. She pushed me backward, not gently, but with force, like shoving away something dirty. I stumbled down those perfect marble steps and fell onto the driveway. The pie tin flew from my hands. It crashed against the ground, the crust breaking apart, apple filling spreading across the white concrete like a wound. She didn't help me up. Instead, she looked around quickly, worried someone might see. Then she laughed. A cold, empty sound that made my heart break. And with that, she slammed the door shut. Behind that door, I heard voices. Happy voices. Clinking glasses. Her laugh again, but different now. Warm and fake for her guests. A man across the street was walking his dog. He stopped and stared at me. This old woman sitting in pie filling in tears. Maybe he wondered what I'd done wrong. Maybe he just felt sorry for me. I stood up slowly. My hip ached. My pride hurt worse. I looked at the broken pie, the mess on the ground. Let it stay there, I thought. Let her see it every time she leaves and remember what she threw away. I didn't knock again. I didn't beg. I didn't scream. But I walked away knowing something had died between us. That woman behind the door wasn't my daughter anymore. She was something else entirely. And I had just met her for the first time. The door opened again before I reached the street. I turned around, hoping maybe she'd changed her mind. But it wasn't her. A beautiful woman stepped out, silver hair styled perfectly, wearing an elegant blue dress. She looked like a movie star's grandmother. She was holding my daughter's hand, and I heard words that made my blood freeze. "This is my mother," my daughter announced to a group of reporters gathered in the foyer. "She saved me from a terrible fire when I was 12. I lost everything, but she pulled me from the flames and raised me alone. The cameras flashed. People wiped their eyes. I stood in the shadows, invisible. No, worse than invisible. Replaced. That woman, the one with the gentle smile and perfect posture, nodded gracefully at the cameras. I always believed she was special, she said, squeezing my daughter's hand. Even when she was badly burned and scared, I knew she would do great things. My chest felt tight. My legs shook. I knew this performance because I had lived it. But now someone else was acting out my memories for people who would never know the truth. My daughter turned to the cameras again. She's why I started Phoenix Rise Foundation, she said, her voice breaking with fake emotion, because I know what it's like to lose everything in flames. And I know how powerful it is when someone saves your life without asking for anything back. The woman dabbed her eyes with a tissue that probably cost more than my grocery budget. She deserved every success, she whispered. They hugged and I stood there shaking. That wasn't my story. They were stealing my sacrifice, my struggle. I was the one who worked double shifts at the diner to pay for her dance lessons. I was the one who stayed up all night when she had fever, who saved pennies for her prom dress. I was the one who loved her fiercely when nobody else cared. But it wasn't me in that house. She had told them I died in a fire trying to save others. The fire that never happened. The heroic death that was pure fiction. She had killed me off and given my love to a stranger. And worst of all, she had made that stranger better than me. More elegant, more graceful, more camera-ready. Someone who never had to yell about homework or cry over unpaid bills or eat leftover crackers for dinner. That woman didn't earn the right to be called mother, but she got the title anyway. And I, who carried that girl for 9 months, who tore my body apart bringing her into this world, I was erased like a mistake. I backed away before anyone could see me. I didn't want to be caught watching my own replacement. I walked back to the street slowly. My hands were sticky from the pie filling. My heart was broken in pieces smaller than the shattered crust. Inside that mansion they celebrated and toasted. My daughter had convinced the world she rose from ashes that never existed. But those fake ashes, they had buried the real me. I didn't go home right away. I sat on a park bench and watched real families. Mothers pushing strollers, grandparents teaching kids to ride bikes. Life happening all around me while I felt like the ghost she had made me. When I finally got home, I turned on the news. There she was again. On a talk show, sitting next to that same elegant woman. The screen read "Fire Survivor Builds Empire of Hope." The host leaned forward with fake concern. "So your mother found you after the accident?" My daughter nodded solemnly. "She searched for me for years after the fire separated us. I always knew she would find me again." The woman beside her smiled perfectly. "I never stopped looking," she said. The camera loved her. I stared at the screen, remembering the birthday card my daughter sent me when she turned 18. "You're my hero, Mom," she had written. "You showed me that love conquers everything." I kept that card in my jewelry box, the only valuable thing I owned. Now she was saying I was dead and loving another. That night I sat alone in my kitchen, looking at the photos on my refrigerator. Pictures of her first day of school, her graduation, her first job. All the moments that proved I was real, that I mattered, that I existed. But apparently none of it counted anymore. I didn't confront her. Not yet. There's a difference between being hurt and having proof of the lie. I had all the hurt in the world. But I needed evidence, so I called someone. A woman named Sarah who used to work for private investigators before she retired. I paid her with my savings, the money I'd been putting away to maybe visit my daughter someday. The irony was bitter, but not as bitter as her betrayal. Sarah started following them to charity events, galas, interviews. She pretended to be a photographer and took pictures. There they were, my daughter and her fake mother, holding hands and smiling for cameras that ate up their lies. But Sarah dug deeper. 3 days later, she knocked on my door with a thick folder. "Her name isn't what she told people," Sarah said. "She's never been a mother. Never adopted anyone. Never even been married. Her real name is Patricia Wong." She's an actress who lost her career after a scandal. She filed bankruptcy, lived in her car, had nothing left except the ability to play whatever role paid her bills. And playing the perfect mother was paying her very well. I stared at the papers. There was a photo of Patricia in a different life, younger, desperate, holding a sign that said "Will work for food." Now she was living in luxury, playing my role for my daughter's success. I asked Sarah to find her, and she did. 2 days later, I sat in a small coffee shop downtown, wearing dark glasses and a hat pulled low. My heart pounded as Patricia walked in. She was thinner without the cameras, more fragile. Her hands shook when she picked up her coffee cup. She wore a simple sweater despite the Texas heat. She knew who I was immediately. "You're her real mother," she said quietly. "No games, no pretending." He nodded. She looked down at her hands. "I figured someone would find me eventually." "Why did you take my place?" Yes. Her eyes filled with tears, and for once they seemed real. "Because I was starving," she whispered. "Literally starving. Living in my car, eating from trash cans. When your daughter offered me this job, this role, I thought just once I could feel what it was like to be wanted. To be needed. I couldn't hate her. I had hated her on screen when she held my daughter and wore my memories like stolen jewelry. But here, in the honest light of morning, I saw her for what she was. Not a villain but a victim too, just like me. "I don't blame you," I said softly. "You're not the one who threw me away." She nodded, tears running down her cheeks. "She told me you abandoned her," Patricia whispered. "That you were a drug addict who left when she was young." I shook my head. "I never left her. I was always there. She just needed a better story to sell." We sat in silence after that. When we parted, she squeezed my hand gently. Not in apology but in understanding. Two women who had been used by someone we both loved in different ways. That night, I opened my memory box for the first time in months. Letters, photos, report cards. A picture of me at her high school graduation, so proud I was crying. And then I called someone. His name was Marcus Chen, a journalist who worked for the local paper. He had written about fake charity scandals before. When he answered, I said simply, "You don't know me, but I'm the woman they said died in a fire. I'm her mother." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "The dead one." I smiled even though it hurt. "Not anymore." I went home and sat at my kitchen table. No dramatic music, no angry phone calls, just me and the weight of truth. I pulled out my old shoebox from under the bed. It used to hold my work boots from the factory. Cheap boots that lasted 3 years before the soles wore through. I kept the box because it became something precious. A place to store the things I couldn't bear to lose. I sat on the floor and opened it carefully. Inside were the real memories. Not contracts or legal papers but love made visible. The first thing I found was a drawing. She had made it in 2nd grade, all crayon and imagination. It showed 2 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. "Mommy and me," it said in wobbly letters. There was a sun with a smiley face and flowers that looked like purple scribbles. I remembered the day she brought it home, so excited she could barely sit still during dinner. Beneath the drawing was a small piece of fabric. Her first Halloween costume, a fairy princess dress I had sewn by hand. We couldn't afford a store-bought costume, so I worked late into the night, cutting patterns from newspaper and stitching sequins one by one. She wore it for 3 Halloweens in a row because she loved it so much. I kept a piece when it finally fell apart, unable to throw away something that had made her so happy. And underneath that was a letter. She wrote it when she was 16, upset about a fight we'd had over her curfew. "Mom," it said, "I'm sorry I yelled. You work so hard for me and I'm just a brat sometimes. I know you love me even when I'm awful. You're the strongest person I know." There was a heart drawn at the bottom, surrounded by little flowers. I had cried when she slipped it under my bedroom door. Now I was crying again, but for different reasons. I laid everything out on the table carefully. The drawing, the fabric, the letter. Then I took pictures, one by one, clear and bright, showing every detail. I didn't cry this time. I had already cried enough tears to fill an ocean. Now I had something stronger than sadness. I had proof. I opened my laptop and found every company listed on her foundation's website. Every sponsor, every partner, every investor who put money behind her fake story about rising from fire and tragedy. I wrote the same message to each one, attached the photos, and added one simple line at the bottom. If you're investing in a story about a heroic mother's death, I thought you should know she's still alive. Then I sent it to every name on the list. One by one by one. When I finished, I closed the laptop and sat back. The shoebox was empty now. The memories were out in the world, finally seen after being hidden for so long. Not for revenge, but for truth. I didn't expect much to happen. I thought maybe one person would read it, maybe care. But the world exploded. It started with a blog post. Someone shared my photos with a caption. This woman says she's the real mother of Phoenix Rise CEO Amanda Stark. If this is true, everything is a lie. Within hours it spread everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, news websites. Then came the headline that changed everything. The dead mother lives, and she kept every memory. They published my photos, the drawing, the letter, even the fairy costume fabric. Someone compared the handwriting to Amanda's old school papers and proved they matched. But what destroyed everything was security footage. Not from my phone, which barely worked. Came from the house next door. Their camera had caught the whole thing. Amanda pushing me, the pie shattering, me falling to the ground. The neighbor sent it to Channel 7 News. They aired it that night. By morning it had 20 million views. The internet went crazy. Hashtags everywhere. She is not dead. Justice for real mom. Pie doesn't lie. People were furious. Not just about the push, but about believing the lie. They had donated money, bought her book, attended her seminars. They had cried with Amanda on television as she talked about losing her mother in a fire. Now they knew it was all fake, and the business world responded. Her foundation's donations dropped 90% in 2 days. Major sponsors pulled out. A luxury hotel chain, 3 wellness brands. Even a major publisher canceled her book deal. Comment sections were brutal. If this is how she treats her real mother, what kind of person is she? She replaced her mom like a worn-out couch. Disgusting. I trusted her story. Now I feel like an idiot. Every time I checked my phone, there were more messages. Strangers apologizing to me, friends sharing the story. Women who had followed Amanda for years now feeling betrayed and angry. But Amanda said nothing. No apology, no explanation. She just disappeared from public view completely. Then she came back with a PR campaign. Crisis management interviews, carefully worded statements, damage control meetings with investors. She called it a misunderstanding from a complicated past. She said, the woman in the video is someone from my childhood. I was told she had passed away years ago. I had already grieved her loss. She never used the word mother. Not once. But someone who worked for her reached out to me. A young woman who had believed in Amanda's mission from the beginning. Quit today, she wrote. I believed in her story. But you're the real hero here. Those words meant more to me than any news article or viral video. For so long I had felt invisible, forgotten, erased. And now, finally, someone saw me. Not as the scandal or the footage, but as what I had always been. Her mother. I didn't do interviews. I didn't go on talk shows. I turned down every documentary offer and movie deal. Let Amanda be the one who needed the spotlight. All I had ever wanted was to be remembered truthfully. Then the headlines changed. This time they weren't about me. They were about Patricia, the woman who had played my role so perfectly. Fake mother in Amanda Stark scandal disappears with $2 million. She had emptied accounts connected to the Phoenix Rise Foundation. Overnight transfers, fake documents, gone without a trace. She had vanished like smoke, leaving only lies behind. The media dug into her background. Her name wasn't Patricia Wong. It was Jennifer Miles. She had done this before. For other times with 4 other CEOs. Always the same story. Young successful person claims their mother died tragically. Jennifer steps in as the loving mother who found them again. She plays the role perfectly until she gets bored or finds a bigger payday. Always with people who valued sympathy more than honesty. Always with those who saw motherhood as a prop instead of a relationship. It wasn't just a con for money. It was a con of the heart. And Amanda had been fooled too. The woman she paid to replace me had never been real at all. I got a postcard that week. No return address, just my name written in shaky handwriting. It was from somewhere in Mexico, a picture of a sunset over the ocean. On the back it said I was never really her mother. I never wanted to be. But for a little while I got to feel what it might be like to matter to someone. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know that if I had ever been a real mother, I would have wanted to be like you. There was no signature, just a note at the bottom. You were never the fake one in this story. You were always the real thing. I folded the postcard and put it in my jewelry box next to the birthday card Amanda had written years ago. 2 pieces of paper, 2 different kinds of truth. Outside my window, the apple tree I had planted last spring was starting to bloom. Small white flowers that would become fruit someday. I had planted it from seeds I saved from that broken pie. The one that shattered on her driveway when she pushed me away. I sat with that thought for a while. Amanda had lost everything. Her reputation, her business, her fake mother. And now she was truly alone, just like she had always claimed to be. But this time it was real. The phone rang at 2 in the morning. I was awake, staring at the ceiling and listening to the wind through my window. I didn't recognize the number, but I knew who it was before I answered. Her voice was small, broken, the voice of a scared child, not a millionaire CEO. I know it's late, she whispered. I know I don't deserve to call. But I didn't know who else to turn to. I said nothing. Everything is falling apart, she continued. The lawsuits, the investigations. They want to freeze all my accounts. I might lose the house. Silence stretched between us like a bridge that had been burned. Mom, she said again, almost too quiet to hear. I heard you have money now. Some investments that did well. She was right about the money. Years ago, I had bought a small piece of land outside the city. Nobody wanted it then, too far from town, too rocky to build on. But I planted fruit trees, sold produce at farmers markets, saved every penny I could. The land was worth millions now. She had done her research, or someone had done it for her. Mom, she said again. Please just help me fix this. I'll do anything. I'll make it right. I'll put you in the business. I'll tell everyone the truth. I stood at my window and looked at the apple tree. It was small but strong, growing despite rocky soil and harsh weather. I had planted it from broken pieces, from what she had thrown away. And somehow it had found a way to live and bloom. She kept talking. Words like sorry, mistake, family, future. And then she said the one word that changed everything. Mother. Not mom, not ma, not hey you. Mother. Finally spoke. Do you remember that day at the house? She went quiet. When I brought the pie. Still quiet. When you pushed me down and slammed the door. Her voice cracked. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. That day, I said quietly, when you closed the door on your mother, you opened another door instead. She held her breath. The door to a life without me in it. There was a long pause. Then I said, very softly but firmly, and I will not be the one to close it for you. I hung up and turned off my phone. For the first time in months, I slept deeply. Not from happiness but from peace. I didn't write a book. There were offers, so many offers. Publishers, movie producers, even a streaming service that wanted to make a series about my story. I said no to all of them because this was never about fame or money. This was about being remembered as I really was. And now that people knew the truth, that was enough for me. I wake up every morning at sunrise. I check on my apple tree. I water the garden. I pick flowers for the kitchen table. Sometimes I bake pies, just one, and eat a slice while I read the newspaper. There's a little boy next door named Tommy. He's maybe 8, with freckles and a gap-toothed smile. He comes over sometimes with questions about plants or requests for cookies. He calls me Grandma Rose. I never told him my story. He doesn't need to know about the daughter who forgot me or the world that thought I was dead. He only knows I have apple pie and I always share. One afternoon he looked at me while I was peeling apples and said, I wish you were my real grandma. I smiled and meant it when I said maybe I am, honey. Maybe I am. In the evenings, I sit in my rocking chair by the window. I write letters to old friends. I work on crossword puzzles. I watch cooking shows and try new recipes. Some people might call this a quiet life, but to me it feels sacred because it's honest. There are no cameras, no fake hugs, no made-up stories about tragedy and triumph. Just me, just breathing, just the simple joy of being alive and real. Sometimes I see Amanda on the news. She looks different now. Older, sadder, like someone who finally understands what she lost. The world hasn't forgiven her. She does volunteer work now, quietly, without publicity. Some say she's trying to rebuild. Some say she's finished. I don't say anything because she's no longer mine to defend or judge. My job was to love her and I did that. Her job was to love me back and she chose not to. I didn't go to her bankruptcy hearing. I didn't read her public apology. I didn't feel happy about her downfall because revenge was never what I wanted. I wanted recognition and I got it. I wanted truth and I found it. I wanted peace and I made it myself. My name isn't in history books. No one writes articles about the woman behind the viral video. But sometimes people knock on my door. Not reporters or producers, just regular people. A woman who says, "My daughter won't speak to me either. I thought I was alone." Teacher who says, "I showed your story to my students. They learned something important." A man who brings me apples from his orchard and says, "I planted these because of what you went through." And each time I smile because I'm still here. The world tried to erase me. My own daughter tried to rewrite me out of existence. But I survived. Like the apple tree outside my window, grown from broken pieces that fell when she pushed me away. It bloomed anyway and so did I. This story was never about getting even. It was about staying rooted. The kind of roots they try to forget, the kind that keep holding long after you've been cut down. And so I say this, not to the cameras, but to the quiet spaces where truth lives. You don't have to be famous to matter. You don't have to be seen to be real. You don't need your name on a billboard to have worth. Because a mother, a real mother, never truly disappears. Even when she's written out of the story, even when she's replaced by someone prettier, even when she's declared dead, she remains. In memories, in recipes, in growing things. It's been 3 years now. 3 years since the world watched her fall and I chose dignity over revenge. Since the fake mother vanished and the cameras moved on to other stories. 3 years since her midnight phone call and I said no. Life didn't just go on. It grew stronger. Some mornings I wake before dawn not because I can't sleep, but because I want to greet the day properly. I step into my backyard and check on the apple tree under the soft light of street lamps. Every branch, every leaf tells a story of surviving. Some parts still bear fruit. Others are just reaching toward the sun, but I see possibility everywhere. The house feels bigger now, though nothing has changed. I painted the kitchen yellow, bright as sunshine. I added one framed picture to the mantel. Not of Amanda, but of Tommy next door, grinning with apple juice on his chin. On weekdays, I volunteer at the community garden downtown. I teach kids how to plant seeds and wait patiently for them to grow. I don't mention that I'm famous for 15 minutes. They know me as Miss Rose, the lady who brings fresh apple slices and knows which plants need extra water. Simple work. It's good work. It's everything I need. Every now and then I get messages from people who found my story online. A teenager who said she stopped trying to impress her parents and started being herself instead. A father who reached out to his own mother after years of silence. A woman who planted an apple tree in her backyard and named it Hope. None of them wanted anything from me. They just wanted to say thank you. And each time I feel grateful. I keep these messages in a folder marked letters. I don't read them often. Just when I need reminding that one honest life can touch others, that standing up for truth matters even when it's hard. Sometimes I see Amanda's name in business news. She's working for someone else now, quietly helping small charities with their fundraising. People describe her as humbled, changed, learning from her mistakes. One article mentioned her mother's blessing, though they didn't use my name. I don't read those articles closely. It's not anger I feel anymore, just distance. Some stories don't need public endings. Some truths take years and small seeds to fully bloom. One evening, washing dishes at the kitchen sink, I watched the apple tree's shadow stretch across my garden in the golden afternoon light. I paused, dish rag in hand, and thought, it's still growing. Later that night, Tommy knocked on my door with his bicycle helmet still on. He wore a t-shirt with a cartoon dinosaur and grass stains on his knees. "Grandma Rose," he said, "Mom's working late again. Can I stay for dinner?" "Course, sweetheart. Come on in." He showed me a loose tooth, told me about a soccer game, asked if we could make apple crisp together. I said yes and handed him a bowl of sliced fruit. "Thank you," he said, biting into a piece. The juice ran down his chin just like it used to with Amanda when she was small. I wiped it gently and said, "The sweetest things grow from the smallest seeds." He looked up at me with bright, trusting eyes. "You're the best grandma ever," he said. I hugged him close, not because I had to perform kindness, but because he deserved it and I needed to give it. That night after dinner, I walked outside to check on the apple tree one more time. Tommy waved goodbye and rode off toward home, his bike light blinking in the darkness. I touched the rough bark with my palm and thought about how far we'd both come. Growth isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it happens underground, in quiet places, taking water and time and a different kind of strength than what they celebrate on stages. In the distance, I heard night birds singing their evening songs. My heart felt full, completely full. 3 years ago, I never would have believed I'd end up here, in gratitude instead of bitterness, with new love that felt deeper than my old hurt. I wonder sometimes if Amanda thinks about me, if she remembers the smell of apple pie in September, if she notices apple blossoms when spring comes around.